In this video, I'm going to show you how to begin a landscape painting. Now, this was a live stream that I did with my students in my art school where I showed them how to block in a landscape painting using oil paints. I showed them a way of creating depth in the painting and how to mix all the colours. So I'll just show you what I'm going to be painting. So this little one here, so this is a colour study. It's a little painting in its own right, but I'm now going to start a larger version of it on this 20, I think it's a 24 by 30 inch canvas. Here's the colours I'm going to be using. But anyway, I'm using titanium white, burnt sienna, yellow ochre, cadmium yellow, cadmium red, alizarin crimson, ultramarine blue, and phthalo green. And I'm using here some oleo gel. So I'm not using liquid today. Let's make a start. So let's hold the palette up here. So let's get some oleo gel on my brush. So I'm going to start using big brushes here. This is a number 8 flat brush. And I'm just going to start sketching out the composition with burnt sienna mixed with this oleo gel. So we'll see how we get on here. And I'm going to be referring to my painting for the composition here. So let's find the middle of the canvas. So I just imagine a cross like this. So I reckon the middle's probably around there, probably roughly the middle. And I'm going to start by sketching out the tree, which is one of the main features of this composition. So I'm just going to start getting some lines down here. This is
Sam,
cool.
is your small painting and your large painting the same ratio?
Uh, Roughly. Maybe this
Oh,
is slightly wider. It's not far off.
okay. That
It,
makes it easier when it is, doesn't it?
yeah, I would say it's fairly close. I don't think it's
Thank
going to
you.
cause. Yeah, no worries. I don't think it's going to cause a problem at all. I know. We'll soon see.
Thank you.
Maybe this painting will turn out to be a complete disaster, and I'll then realise, oh, I should have had the exact ratio of the. But no, I think it's okay. I guess
Thanks.
you. Oh, no worries. I guess you'd want it, reasonably this a similar ratio. I mean, for example, you wouldn't do a color study of this like that and then like paint it on a square format, if you see what I mean. That probably wouldn't work. The design idea I had in mind for this painting was a steel yard where we've got this large mass and then it's counterbalanced by a smaller mass, which is what I'm going to put over here. And I'm just really fond of this composition because it naturally implies balance in your painting. So I actually might make that tree a little bit smaller. I'm just getting some lines down at the moment. So we've got a stand of trees here. Okay. And then there's that hill. Yeah, I might need to make that tree a bit smaller. Now, slightly different to what's on my color study is I've actually decided to make that line go off there. So slight change there. You can make some subtle changes to the composition if you need to, because I've found that sometimes once you start painting on a bigger version that, things can be a bit different. But we'll see how we get on. And then we got these foothills here, some vegetation on there as well. Let's see. There's a hill going down to the side. I'll actually show you the reference photo as well. Let me just unplug my iPad a minute. So that's my reference photo, and there's a quite steep hill there, but I think I'm going to make it shallower for this, just because I think the composition will just be a little bit more improved by doing that. I'm still mainly referring to my color study though at the moment.
Hi, Sam.
Hey.
It's Rachel. I just I slept in because I was up all night painting.
Oh,
Um,
you're good.
and I just flicked it on while I was having a coffee, and I thought, oh, spontaneous painting. I know that they're meant to be spontaneous, but geez, it would have been nice to know.
Oh,
Yeah, no, it's looking good, Sam. I'll just keep watching.
oh, thanks for that. Yeah, this morning I had a Zoom meeting and I wasn't sure how long it was going to go on for or how the day was going to pan out and whether I was even going to get the chance to paint today. But I've really wanted to start like the larger version of this painting, and yeah, and I just thought, well, why not
Oh, that's
share it
good.
with you all at the same time? So it is short notice,
No,
but
I actually liked it. I got a kick out of it. So yeah.
yeah, I
Um,
mean,
all right.
I'm gonna do a few more of these. Like there'll be the regular ones that are on every Monday New Zealand time or Sunday if you live in the USA.
I think it's great. I'm really glad that you did this. All of a sudden, it was like, oh, jump on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now I've been thinking over the last few days. I should just I should also just do some random live streams like whenever I feel like painting because there's days when I'm planned to do painting, and then there's other days where I'm never sure how my day is going to pan out, and then sometimes I've I've got time, and then I'm just in the mood for doing some painting. So in those situations, I just think, well, why not set
Sam,
the
it's
camera up?
Shy. It's
Hey,
Shy.
how's it going?
I'm fantastic. How are you? I
Yeah,
find it
good.
a bit more personal. It becomes a bit more personal being
Yeah,
visual.
exactly.
Yeah, good on you. Thank you.
No worries. Um, I might just make this tree a little bit bigger, actually. Let's bring it down a little bit. Because the willow tree is definitely one of the main features of this painting. So I really want to emphasize the foliage here and just the form of this tree. And as this is the blocking in stage, um, you can go real loose with your brushwork, even when you're sketching it out. I'm sketching out in burnt sienna because this is like one of the main colors that I use as part of my palette. And it will mix in nicely with loads of the other colors anyway. So it's a good color to sketch out your composition in. Make that foliage lower there so it hangs down. I mean, in the blocking in stage, I'm not going to worry about detail at all. I just want to get the main kind of tonal values and colors down. Hang on, I'm just flicking through my other reference photos here. Let's see. I think that's almost blocked in there. I'm liking this oleo gel so far. It's kind of like using liquid, but it's not toxic. Because I've been using liquid for years, and it's a great product, and it's really good just because it speeds up the drying time. But it's a little bit toxic, so it's not the nicest stuff to use, and it does have a smell to it. And I'm starting to just try and minimize the amount of toxic products I'm using with my oil painting. Definitely, if you're painting outdoors on plein air, then liquid's absolutely brilliant. I wonder even actually. Hang on, let me just get a rag a minute because I might even shift that tree just a little bit more. Just give me 2 seconds. I've got to get my brush holder as well, actually. Brush holder. I've got quite a narrow space here, just because my art studio it's downstairs in my house, but the room is actually pretty small, so everything's quite cramped. Yeah, I might just shift that tree more to the left a little bit more. That's the cool thing about oil paint is you can just use a rag to wipe it off. I'll see if we've got any questions as well. Do I have a sketch for this? Yes, I do. In fact, I can show it to you. Hang on, just give me a sec. Oops. Let's see. Uh, Here you go. So yeah, that's my reference sketch. And then prior to
Really
that,
good.
oh, thank you. And then prior to that, I did a load of thumbnail sketches for it. Where, hang on a minute. See if I can. Yeah, there you go. So that's where this painting started. These tiny little thumbnail sketches. So this is something you all want to do when you before you get into a painting is get the sketching down first and yeah, do a lot of thumbnail sketches, and then you finish it with a final pencil sketch that you can use to refer to when you come to do your painting. I'm just going to shift these trees to there a little bit more. Uh, there we go. Alrighty. That's looking pretty good. So the first thing to do, so I've sketched out the composition. Actually, let me just take a photo of that with my phone. Just bear with me a sec. I like to document my paintings as I paint them. And it's a good thing to do as well, especially if you ever decided you wanted to like create a blog, for example. And yeah, use it as a way of getting traffic to your website, then doing painting demos is a really good thing. So just documenting your process. David says, sorry, I can't stay for the rest of this, just connected while I walk down for some lunch. Yeah, no worries, David. I'll upload the replay to this anyway, so you can watch it. I'm not sure how far I'll get into this anyway, but I just wanted to make a start on this painting today. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start mixing the colors for the clouds. So I start my paintings by painting my dark values first. I find that much easier. So I'm going to mix these cloud colors here with ultramarine blue, burnt sienna, and I'm able to use the burnt sienna I've used already with this oleo gel, titanium white, and I'm going to use a little bit of alizarin crimson as well. That's quite a bit of alizarin crimson. Probably need some more titanium white also. And you want to edge the mixture on the more on the blue side. Now, when I say dark values first, I include the clouds in that, even though the value of the cloud shadows is quite light, because skies and clouds are some of the lightest values in the landscape in general. Depends how dark the clouds are, of course, but generally it's one of the more lighter values in the landscape. But I just include that in the shadows. So let's just see what that looks like. Looks okay. Probably could be a bit lighter. So I can just mix in a bit more titanium white. Just gonna use some more of this. I'm going for thinner layers of paint here to start with, just thinking about the fat over lean principle. So when I come to do more detail with this, then I'll use thicker paint. But to start with, it's a bit thinner. But let's see what that looks like. So the reason I'm using um, quite big brushes, I could probably even go with a number 10 actually. It's, it's just so that I cover ground quickly. And it doesn't matter that this burnt sienna mixes in either. In fact, it's pretty cool that it does, because you get a variety of different, hues coming through. I think I might have to squeeze out some more oleo gel in a minute, actually. Let's see how we're doing. I definitely want that a bit more blue, the clouds here. That's quite a bit lighter. And I tint it with alizarin crimson, and I just use the tiniest amount. So when you use alizarin crimson, you only need a small amount. Or if you're using quinacridone magenta instead of alizarin crimson, you just need a small amount, because otherwise it overpowers the mixture, and then you get this kind of I don't know, just paintings when there's just too much alizarin crimson in it. It starts making the colors look a bit yucky. So just be careful of that. Okay. So I'm not sure how long this painting will take to block in, but we'll see how we get on. So at the moment, I'm just concentrating on some of these cloud shadows here. Just mixing up some more of the same color. So I'm also sort of having to recharge the color as well. Probably won't need too much burnt sienna in the mix anyway, just because there's quite a lot on the canvas already. So we'll see what that looks like. Yeah, that looks good. There we go. And we can put liberal amounts of this shadow mix on there, because when I start painting the areas in light, it can mix in as well. As I say, we're not worried about detail. We just want some nice loose brushwork, some nice texture in there. Just make it look painterly. That's what you want to do. So we're not trying to create a photograph. We want just nice painterly brushwork. don't even worry about detail, especially not at this stage. You can add loads of detail later on if you want to. I'm still trying to find that medium between like loose brushwork and a bit of detail. But I reckon that's looking all right so far. So the next tier of depth in here is these mountains in the background, and they're in shadow. But they've, as you can see, they're darker than these cloud shadows. I'll show you the actual photo as well. Let's see if there's one more of a close-up one. You can see that the darkest darks here are way lighter than the darks in these hills here or these trees. So, but these are darker than the cloud shadows. So we'll find our darkest darks and our lightest lights in the foreground. And then as you get into the background, the darks are not as dark and even the lights are not as light. So always something to keep in mind.
Sam, yeah,
Yeah.
here. Do
Yeah.
you like to go all over the painting first, so the shadows you made becoming a bit tacky?
You mean, do I like to try and block in the whole thing in one go? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, no, but start at different areas. So you're not going
Oh, I see.
put the
Yeah, you
light.
mean, will I just like work on one zone and then just...
Yeah,
No, I don't do that. There are lots of artists that do that, but I don't.
okay.
I just start off with the darks first, and then I'll work back and work my way forward. But the first thing I want to do is just establish the whole the sort of tonal range.
Yep.
So by painting your darks first, you'll quickly build up those tiers of depth in your painting, and then it makes it a lot easier to paint the areas in light.
Thank
So
you.
no worries. So these colors I'm using for this mountain or these mountains in the background, they're the exact same colors I've been using in the clouds here, except I've used more ultramarine blue and a little bit more burnt sienna to desaturate. So the burnt sienna is just going to desaturate the color because burnt sienna is a dark orange and orange is opposite to blue on the color wheel. So another way you could do it if you're using a color like burnt umber, for example, which I'm not really fond of that color at all, but you can desaturate blue with that color also. As I say, I'm not really that keen on that color, so I eliminated it from my palette. I think if you're new to painting as well, that there's a danger you can muddy up your colors too easily with burnt umber. And I think that's the problem with it. So I can let some of this burnt sienna that I've put down already just mix in with the shadow areas in this mountain and these mountains in the background. And the other thing I can do as well is I can just match the colors of my painting as well, just to make sure that it's right. This is where your color study is going to become really useful to you. And as I say, you know, it's a little painting in its own right, so you can still sell it as a painting if you want to. They look great in frames as well, just little small 8x10s. But as I say, I can just match up the colors, make sure that it's looking all right. There you go. Let's mix up a bit more. I haven't got a very fancy setup here actually. I've got my Pashard box and my painting's just resting on it. I do have an easel, but I just find it in my small studio it all just takes up too much space, especially when I'm trying to film it as well. Let's get a bit more alizarin in there. So that mark I've just put down there is way too light, so that's got to be darker again. That's probably still a bit light as well. Hang on a minute. Hey. And then for that very background mountain, I'm going to make that a little bit lighter. Okay, so all I've done is I've added a bit more titanium white into the mix. And we can even let some of this burnt sienna mix in as well. And that might be a little bit too light, so I can just darken it with some more ultramarine blue. There, that's better. Now I'm going to start working on the shadows in this tier of the midground. I think for the moment, what I'm going to do is I'm going to carry on using this mix of ultramarine blue, burnt sienna, and titanium white and the alizarin crimson. So, but I will be adding some green into it in a bit. Let me just oh, I just need some paper towels. Just bear with me. I'm going to like stretch across to reach things in my studio.
I have one question for you, Sam. When you're
Yeah, sure.
painting, I always have, I use because I paint in the studio,
Yeah,
one for the air conditioning. I use a studio light,
yeah,
and I have it set to the apparent correct color temperature. I used to be able to paint in natural light with the window, and I'm still getting used to the artificial light, to be honest.
yeah,
Um, I'm finding that the brightness of the light will determine the darkness of the
yeah,
paint on the canvas. So
yeah.
that's why I tone my canvas so I can try and gauge it. But I am noticing in the studio my paintings look nice and vibrant and bright
Yeah,
and and whatever. And then when I take them out into, say, hang them on the wall, they seem darker. I'm clearly doing something wrong. Should I be dulling down my light?
yeah. I mean, if you paint in darker conditions, then yeah, you'll compensate for that. So if you're making your paintings look good in darker conditions, then when you get them out in the light, they should really pop.
Okay,
Um,
okay,
in the case of what I'm doing, because I have the same problem because I need the lights on my canvas and everything because I'm filming. So that's something I have to be aware of as well because I'm filming all this for YouTube half the time in the art school. Then yeah, my studio is probably a bit lighter than I'd like.
okay,
I do
okay.
understand. Yeah, I understand the issue you're having there.
Yeah, if I have it too dark, my palette doesn't. That's why I'm trying to get my palette up next to my easel so I can mix
Yeah,
correctly. That I think with portraits and still life, it doesn't seem to matter so much because the still life's lit all on its own, and what I see there
yeah,
is what I print. So if yeah, but with the landscapes off a photo, it's quite different.
yeah, yeah. Did you say you tone your canvas as well?
I do. I always tone my
Yeah,
canvases. I can't stand a blank white canvas.
yeah.
There's
No,
something about
that's yeah, that's fair enough. I mean that's a matter of preference. I
it.
did paint on a toned surface for quite a few years, and I still do it. Sometimes it depends on the effect I want in my paintings. but generally probably 90% of the time I paint on a white surface, and I've gone back to doing that. And the reason being was I found that when I was painting on a toned surface that often my darks were coming out too dark and that my paintings were looking too dark. Or I'd
Okay.
have to, or I'd end up having to make, readjust the values like halfway through the painting because they were too dark in the first place. And I found that when I went back to painting on a white canvas that I found it easier to get my values correct. And also I
Okay.
feel like my colors look cleaner as well. So I'm not saying you shouldn't paint on a toned surface, but I know certainly I've spoken to beginner painters and stuff, and then they've struggled with their paintings because everything's coming out too dark, and it's because they've toned their background. So it's just my opinion. I think if you're learning to paint, it's probably better to paint on a white background, and then when you're more experienced, you can start playing around with a toned surface and seeing if it works for you. But yeah, I prefer painting on a white background.
Yeah, I'm thinking landscapes might be more beneficial for me to use the
Yeah.
white surface. I'll try
Uh,
that. Thanks, Sam.
Yeah, no, I'll tell you what, I'll show you an example though of the effect you can get with a toned canvas. Hang on. Let me just give me 2 secs. There you go. So I'll show you this painting here. Oops. So this one here I did in acrylics, and I've painted it in a really loose way, but if you look closely, I've painted it in a manner where you can see the underpainting coming through, which is what I wanted, sort of to warm up that whole thing. So I toned this with burnt sienna, and I wanted that warm burnt sienna underpainting to come through. You can see it there in the paint.
Yeah, I can.
So
Yeah.
there are times when I do like to do it. You can see it here in the cloud. You can just see where the underpainting is. But I was painting that in a slightly different style. Um, I actually I want to paint a snow scene real soon, and I've sketched it out, so it's kind of ready to go. And I think for that one, I might actually tone the background with burnt sienna just to warm it up. You wouldn't think that with a cold scene, such as a snowscape, but I still want that warm underpainting. So that I think it has a time and a place to do it. But as I say, for around 90% of my paintings, I prefer to paint on a white surface, and I certainly think if you're learning to paint, you'll find life a lot easier if you just paint on a white canvas. But yeah. Alrighty, gonna mix up some more colour here. I think I'm gonna have to squeeze out some more oleo gel and maybe even some more ultramarine blue. I seem to be going through that pretty quick. So I'm just recharging this colour mixture. And I can allow it to mix with this existing white on here. There we go. I mean, this is more for the background kind of occlusion shadows, and it will get another layer of paint over it anyway. And I'll certainly start adding some greens into it. But I'm really just focusing on the dark values and the shadows in this. And that's going to make painting the areas in light a lot easier.
Hi, Sam. Yai again.
Hey, Yai, how's it going?
Yeah, really good. Can you show the photo again so we can
Yeah,
see where you are?
yeah, sure. So obviously
Oh, yeah.
I've changed the proportions quite a bit to what's in the photo, and in general I've changed it up a little bit. I've made the background a bit bigger. As I say, I'm painting I'm painting a landscape, creating a painting. I'm not trying to copy the photo accurately or directly, if you see what I mean.
Yes, thank you.
No worries. Yeah, I mean that's another thing I love about painting landscapes is you've just got this freedom to change things around because yeah, it's your world as I'm pretty sure Bob Ross said that when he was painting. But you can do what you want really. And you know what? When I was first told that you can change these things up yourself, you don't have to copy it to how the photo is. I was like, what? You're allowed to do that? As my art mentor, and he just said, yeah, just you want to change things up because you're not going to find well, it's not likely that you'll find a perfect composition in nature. You might find some good ones. I mean, this kind of already naturally forms a reasonably good composition, but there's still things that needed changing in it.
Sam, a question.
Yeah, go for it.
If you change things and you call the painting that area, have people ever pulled you up on that? That it doesn't look like?
Yeah, not that I can remember. I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah,
I thought I asked.
yeah. I mean, if they have, I can't remember, and I don't know. Yeah, I don't think so.
Okay, people don't look like the painters do, I think, or don't
No,
seem
I
like.
mean, most people aren't going to know. I think if you've changed it up, and unless it's someone that's knows that particular areas well and is just really kind of picky about everything, then maybe they might pull you up on it. But it hasn't worried me since I've stopped worrying about whether the photo I'm copying or whether I'm doing it accurately, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
So here I'm just marking in where some of these tree shadows are, and I'm still just using the same combination of colors. And as I say, there's going to be green mixed into it in a bit anyway, so I'm not too worried. But I just want to establish the kind of main like value range to start with, and especially where all my darks are. And then I can start painting the areas in light. So I'm just marking out where just some of these tree shadows are. Probably a bit too dark there, but also because it's the initial layer as well, and I'm painting on a white surface, it's going to look a bit lighter than it will be when I start adding more layers to it. Yeah, I was going to say you don't have to start your painting in this way. I mean, many artists would just start with the sky and literally just paint everything and just work their way forward. But I've learned this through painting outdoors, plein air painting, and I learned it when I was painting with a group of artists, including a guy called John Crump, who's a really good New Zealand plein air painter. I mean, he's a brilliant plein air painter. He's definitely one of the best in the world, in my opinion. But he said to me, you'll find it much easier if you paint your dark values first, because then when the light changes, which it inevitably does, and in New Zealand the weather changes often, he goes, it won't matter then if suddenly the sun's disappeared behind the clouds or anything like that, because you've already got your darks down first, so it's going to make it much easier to paint the areas in light. And when I started doing that, it really did make everything a lot easier. Plus, I was finding I wasn't having to keep like readjusting all the values so much either.
When you're doing on plein air painting, Sam, do you
Yep.
use a particular medium like that you wouldn't normally use in the studio?
No, well, I use liquid mainly. The only other thing I'd use out in the field that I don't use in the studio is I use kerosene to wash my brushes because it just gets them really clean. But that I don't use in
Ouch.
the studio because it stinks.
Kerosene or turps?
No, kerosene.
Okay. I haven't tried that. I don't think I would. I'm not sure.
John Crump uses kerosene to wash his brushes, and he reckons it oils the bristles at the same time. At least I'm pretty sure he said that to me. So,
Okay.
and
Okay.
I
That's
find,
something to think about.
yeah, as I say, the only downside of it is it absolutely stinks. So you don't want to be breathing it in. Like
I know
I wouldn't.
my mother used to polish our linoleum floors with kerosene to keep the shine up. So I know how
Yeah,
it smells. I remember it as a child.
yeah, yeah. It
Mm.
does seem to get my brushes pretty clean, though. I will say that.
Okay. Thanks, Sam.
No worries. So I'm just going to clean my brush a little bit. So you can see how my shadows are getting darker as I'm working towards the foreground here. And I'm thinking about the color harmony the whole time, which is why I've been using the titanium white, burnt sienna, ultramarine blue, and a tiny bit of alizarin crimson. And if you watch that live stream I did where I did the value study where I just used ultramarine blue, burnt sienna, and titanium white. Well, this is also the basis of your color mixing as well. So this starts to get you thinking about those using those colors because I use these colors a lot throughout my painting. When you do a value study using those three colors, it starts getting you used to learning about using those colors when you paint your shadows, or just using those as default color mixes, if that makes sense.
Hi, Sam.
Probably.
Yeah, again.
Hey.
It has helped me enormously just to use that limited palette of yours.
Yeah.
I find I get to where I want to go much quicker.
Yeah. Do you find it easier using a limited
Oh,
palette?
oh, so much easier. I usually had a whole truckload of different colors on the palette, and it becomes really confusing because you don't know
Exactly.
exactly what you did anymore.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I personally think that you don't need to use that many colors. There's plenty of artists, there's plenty of modern day painters that don't use many colors. I mean, one of my favorite painters is Frank Serrano, and you should follow him on Instagram. He's mainly a plein air painter. His
Mhm.
work's a lot looser than mine, but I mean, to be honest, I kind of partly stole his palette. I saw what colors he was using, and yeah, real simple palette.
Yep.
And I just sort of whittled the colors down that I was using because a few years ago I was using a lot more colors, but then I found that I could mix a lot of the colors that I had already. Like say for example, I used to have burnt umber on there, and it was to create dark tones in clouds and stuff. But then I found that I could make a similar color with burnt sienna instead, and also burnt sienna I think mixes better with ultramarine blue because it's a dark orange.
Yep.
And whereas a burnt umber, as far as I'm aware, is actually a very dark yellow, and you can see that when you mix it with titanium white.
Yep.
So yeah, I found well that's a color that I can eliminate. I had like cadmium yellow and cadmium yellow deep, where you can create a deeper version of that just by mixing in some cadmium red into it. deepen the color. So I eliminated that color as well. And then I'd have ultramarine blue, cobalt teal, and phthalo green. Cobalt blue is a great color, but I wasn't really using it that much anyway, so I got rid of that. And then the cobalt teal, I found I can mix a color similar to it. It's not as punchy, but I can mix a color similar to that, just using ultramarine blue, phthalo green, and some titanium white. So I eliminated the cobalt teal. Having said that, sometimes I still do a painting where I use cobalt teal, but I'll substitute it. I'll get rid of the phthalo green instead, and sometimes I'll even, instead of using alizarin crimson, I'll use quinacridone magenta, just because quinacridone magenta combines really well with cobalt teal. And get some really nice violets with it.
Yep. Thank
But
you.
yeah, I just think I think it's easier to just keep your color palette more simple. There's other artists in history that have used a simple palette, like Anders Zorn, for example. He created something called the Zorn palette, which was literally black, white, yellow, and red. And yeah, he did all these wonderful paintings with just those colors. There's another artist that I follow. Oh, second.
Hello, Sam.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going good, but I'm really learning a lot from today's Zoom meeting.
Awesome.
Just
That's really
before
cool.
just before you announced you were having one, I was mixing colors, exactly what you were just now showing us, so that I could
Cool.
practice and get the right colors.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah,
So this is really good.
that's great. Yeah, as I say, I just think this is a more simple way of doing things, and you'll get some good results. And you can always build on these colors as well. You don't have to strictly stay to a limited palette, but I just think
Right.
if you're learning to paint, it's probably better to use fewer colors, because apart from anything else, it will give you a better understanding of color mixing.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I was just one of those artists that when I had too many colors, it started getting too confusing for me. So every artist is different. There's lots of artists out there that use lots of colors, and they do great paintings. Um, Certainly, Andrew Tischler uses more colors than I do. Joe Paquette uses a lot of colors, and his paintings are beautiful. I love his work. Love Andrew's work too. Um, yeah, so just, every artist has their own way of doing things. What I'm trying to teach you all is if I can just get you to have a real good solid foundation in this, and then you can just go away and build on it yourself, and then find your own kind of techniques, which will happen anyway. The more you paint, and the more you get the brush mileage under your belt, as Frank Serrano would say, the brush mileage, then yeah, you start developing your own style and your own way of doing things. This is just what works for me. So this is a near black that I've created here, and again, ultramarine blue, burnt sienna. So that's going to create pretty much almost a black, and then there's a little bit of alizarin crimson in there just for the color harmony. But I'm just kind of loosely marking out where some of these main stems and branches are in this willow tree. And probably even add a few dark shadows in these pines as well. Are they pines? I think they are pines. Maybe it's a mix of pines or fir trees.
Sam, do you let your underpainting sketch with the burnt sienna? I assume it's burnt sienna. I can't remember.
Yeah.
Do you let it dry first before you start blocking in?
No. I literally, when I started this was a white canvas. No, in fact, actually, I like the pines.
No, I mean the sketch.
You mean this part?
Yeah.
Yeah, literally, this is still wet.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm happy for the burnt sienna to mix in, and because I'm using it in all of these shadows areas as well, it doesn't matter that it mixes in. So the next thing I'm going to do is just paint a few of these shadows in this willow tree and just some of the other vegetation. So I do want some green in this instance. So I'm using a number 8 flat here. I'll mix it over here anyway. Get some more of this oleo gel. And I'm going to mix some yellow ochre and ultramarine blue. That just creates a really dark green. Yellow's a lighter value color anyway, so it's going to lighten the value of the color. But this is just a good color to start off with for shadows and vegetation, and then you can later on, add to it by perhaps painting some foliage that's in reflected light, and you can mix some different greens then. But just for a general, tree shadow color, just ultramarine blue and yellow ochre works really well. So I'm going to start adding some of these shadows in this willow tree. It's probably a little bit dark, but I'm not really too worried about it because when I start painting the areas in light, it's soon going to lighten up a bit. But again, just using real loose brushwork here. There's just going to be no detail in this stage of the painting at all. Okay, here we go.
After you have everything blocked in the way
Yeah,
you want it, Sam, do you let it all dry first before
yeah,
you go back into it again?
yeah, I'll let it dry.
Thank
So
you.
this will probably be a few days to dry as I'm using oleo gel and not liquid. If I was using liquid, this would be dry. Yeah, by the next day.
Uh-huh.
Well, certainly within a couple of days anyway. But yeah, I'm really starting to think about reducing the amount of liquid I use in the studio. So I'm liking this oleo gel though. I think I'll definitely order some more of it. So as I say, it's Rublev oleo gel, and yeah, I've heard that they're a good brand. I was aware of their brand for quite a while. I've just, for some reason, only recently got around to actually ordering some oleo gel. So I'm just painting the main darks that are in this tree canopy.
I'm getting a kick out of how your brush moves on the canvas because, as you know, my loose painting is really bad. um, yeah, and I'm watching how light the brush moves and flickers from one thing, and you're rotating the brush, I gather.
Yeah,
Yeah, see, that's something I just cannot get my finger on. I end up stiffening up and holding the brush a little bit too stiff and trying to
yeah,
push the paint, trying to, move the paint rather than apply it.
yeah. What I
That
quite
makes
often do
sense.
is hold, especially when I'm blocking in. I like just holding my brush. I kind of hold it like that with fist, and
Oh,
then
okay.
just, yeah, right at the end, and there's more kind of, it's like there's more kind of leverage in your movement, and you can just get some nice, yeah, just nice painterly brush marks. So that's how I do it anyway.
Thanks, Sam.
No worries. Okay, here we go. And I'm gonna paint some shadow areas in this tree as well. I'm just gonna mix in a bit of this because it's a lighter green. Because it's in spring as well, the foliage of some of these trees is quite light, so the shadows are going to be a bit lighter. But I reckon that looks pretty good. And I could probably even just mark the suggestion of a few, a few shadows in the grass as well. I think there's like a stream that runs along there. So, you can just add a few darks.
Hey, Sam,
Hey, how's it going?
I gotta run, but I'm getting a lot of enjoyment out of this one.
Oh, that's awesome. I'll upload the replay to the
Yeah, I'd
school.
like to even paint this one.
Yeah. Well, actually, for the beginners landscape painting course, I am going to be showing you how to paint this one because I've recorded all this as part of the color study module. So
Well,
yeah.
very good, Sam. I've enjoyed it, and I gotta go.
Okay, no worries. I'll see you next time, Faye. Thanks for
Bye,
coming.
guys.
See ya.
Bye, Faye.
Bye-bye.
So I'll just paint this shadow along here of this tree. There we go. Alrighty, so that's the main areas of shadows that are marked in. I'm just going to take a photo. As I say, the darks are mainly all sorted, and I'll be working on them more anyway. But for the moment, I've just got them down on my canvas. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start from the furthest zone away, and that's the sky and the clouds. So I'm going to start painting the cloud highlights. So what I'm going to do is, oops, bit of green in there. It's not good. Hopefully I can get away with that. So some titanium white and a little bit of burnt sienna.
Sam, did you grab a clean brush?
Yeah, I'm using a clean brush. Yeah,
Okay.
there's a number 8 flat brush.
Thank
Oops.
you.
Now I've just used way too much burnt sienna. Get a lot more white in there. Hang on a minute. I used far too much burnt sienna. I'm going to be using this in my clouds. Use a bit more of that. Let's see how we do with that. And actually, even some of the burnt sienna from this can mix in as well. So the clouds are going to be a bit darker in value to start with, and then I can add lighter values to it later on when it's dry. So overall, with your painting, you want to keep it tonally a bit darker anyway at this stage. So you've got plenty of room to add your lighter value color as you work through the painting. And then you'll save your lightest values until right at the very end of the painting. So I'm painting the main light areas of these clouds first of all.
Sam, will you be ever doing a plein air soon?
As in a live planer.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that, and I was thinking about how I could actually set it up and broadcast it at the same time.
Yeah, I can understand that. Yeah. I was just thinking the camera might be the problem.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking I could do it off my cell phone if I can get a good enough signal, I could probably do it. But it would be good to be able to broadcast a live plein air painting. So I might try and see if I can see if it's possible. But I wouldn't really be able to bring my computer with me and get that all set up in order. Yeah, in order to do it.
Yeah, it's quite a detailed setup, I imagine.
Yeah, because basically I'm using like a proper like camera. It's like a Sony camera, and I'm using it as a webcam to film this or to set it up through Zoom, if you see what I mean. And yeah, I've got another camera next to it as well, just filming the process. I'm gonna have to replace the memory card in it in a sec. Um, and then it's all going through my computer. But I think if I do it out in the field, it will have to be off my phone. So I don't know what the quality will like. It'll probably be all right for watching it on Zoom. I know, I'll see. I'll see if I can possibly set it up one day. If not, I'll make some more plein air painting tutorials anyway.
That would be good.
Yeah.
I wonder if you could find a location where the signal is really good and also has something to paint. Obviously, a nice scenery, but yeah, you definitely need a good signal if you were to
Yeah.
use your iPhone. Mm.
I might be able to do it like my local area, there's loads of like rolling hills and farmland and stuff. And I might be able to get to a spot there where the mobile signal's all right, that I might be able to broadcast a live stream. Yeah, I guess we'll just have to try it and see if it works.
Do a little quick test with yourself.
Yeah, that'll be the way to do it. Um, right, what I'm going to do here is now I've added these light layers for the skies, I'm just going to start blending in some of these clouds here. Let's see. Could probably even come back with my shadow mix in just a moment, but I just want to start blending in some of these transition zones between the areas of lights and darks. Okay. See how the burnt sienna that's on there just mixes in nicely with the existing colors of the clouds already. Okay. And I think what I'll do now is I will restate some of these dark values in the cloud shadows and just tidy up the clouds a bit more. There's going to be like loads more work to do on the clouds in general once it's dry. So I'm not too worried about this stage at this stage, but I just want to start um, just making it easier for myself for once it's dry. Let's see. Oh, there we go. That's oops. Just got to shift myself a bit. Make myself a bit more comfortable here. I can't get like right up to my painting because I've got my cameras right in front of me. Okay. So I'm still carrying out this expressive brushwork here, and I'll be able to add more detail to it once it's dry, but just for this stage of the painting, I just want to form these clouds as best I can. You know, another way you can make your clouds look quite dramatic is to paint these cloud bases, which are usually heavier, and just do like sweeping lines like that. That usually works pretty well, and then you soften the edges as also. Let's see. Okay, I might leave that for the moment, and now I'm going to start painting the sky. And for the sky, let's see, what brushes have I got? Just checking I have enough number 8 brushes. I like using these. What's another number 8? Got plenty of number 8 brushes, that's cool. Okay, next for the sky, let's get a bit of oleo gel there. So I'm going to use some ultramarine blue, some titanium white. You can actually mix a sky color just with these two colors. I found that it works quite nicely in mountain environments where you got that kind of dark blue sky. But I'm also going to mix in a little bit of phthalo green, just a small amount. So it's like a nice sort of greenish blue. Let's just see what that looks like. There we go. All right. Might even make it a bit lighter. Again, I can just match it up to my existing painting. That's pretty much it there. I think that looks all right. The cool thing about when you come to paint the skies, you can use it to fill in the negative spaces around your clouds as well. So you can form the shape of your clouds with your sky mix. And when I'm painting the sky, I like doing these vertical downwards brush marks just to get a bit of texture in the sky as well. There we go. So the thing to think about also with clouds is they're also forming part of your composition. So you need to think about where you're placing your clouds as well. I'm just going to feather some of the edges of these clouds as well, just so we haven't got any hard edges. And you could even just use some of the cloud mix to mix into the sky. Makes them look a little bit more wispy. Probably even come in with your, with your sky highlight mix and just, come across, just to communicate some of the clouds just sort of breaking up a little bit. I mean, flat brushes are definitely really good for painting clouds and skies. So, and when you're blocking in a painting, it's, I think, one of the easiest brushes to work with. It's just a flat brush. That's what I mainly use. Let's just tidy this bit up. There we go. A few little wispy bits. So I'm just recharging my paint mix here. I've already got some phthalo green on my palette already, but I was just adding some more titanium white and ultramarine blue. And yeah, we'll come to this side of the sky. Vertical downwards brush marks for this sky. Oops, I've got to replace the memory card a minute. My other camera. Just give me 2 seconds. I'm just. No, it's a bit too dark now. I'm just trying to just tidy up some of these clouds and mountains here. So just restating some of these forms and lines in here. Okay. And just trying to feather some of these edges as well. So I haven't got any hard edges. Hey. There's a bit of although these mountains are in shadow, there's a little bit of detail from uh, just the vegetation that's growing on the side of the mountain. So I might start including that in just a moment, but I really don't want to have detail in this part of the painting at all. I want to keep that a lot more just loose. I find if you add too much detail in the painting, it's going to start looking confusing on the eye. So if you are going to have lots of detail, just have it more in the foreground. And then the more you go into the distance, the less detail you'll want in it. So you wouldn't want to have loads of detail in the mountains in the background because it's just going to overcomplicate the whole painting. So yeah, that's what I recommend there. And I think, right, I'm going to work on this and I'm going to start getting some greens in there. So I'm actually going to, I think I can use this brush that I've used already for these dark greens in the foreground, and we'll start mixing up some different colors here. So generally it's in shadow. Oh, there's a bit of, you know what, there's a little bit of highlight in some of it that I could add that might make it look interesting. I want the contrast as well between this being in shadow and this area in light, so I'm probably not going to go too crazy with the light in the background here. Um, let's just see. So I'm going to use this existing green mix that I've already made. Let's just get a bit more yellow, and so it's yellow ochre and ultramarine blue. I'm just going to add a little bit of titanium white in there. Probably even mixing a small amount of alizarin crimson as well, just to add a red element to the green. So when you start adding something that contains red in the green, it's just going to make it look more natural and harmonious. But let's just see what that looks like. It's probably a bit too dark, so I'll add a bit more titanium white. I definitely want to have plenty of blue in the mix, that's for sure. You see that okay? Another thing is as well, is often I don't mix my colours together thoroughly. I like that broken colour coming through. Like that. And again, I can just use my colour study just to refer to the colours that I've used as well. So even though that looks blue there to start with, I'm going to be painting over it. But I just wanted it to help with the overall tonality of the painting. So let's see here. And even some of this blue can mix in with it as well. And again, it's just loose brush marks in a vertical direction, just communicating the trees that are growing on there on the side of the mountain. So in real life, if you actually go to Queenstown, there's a cable car that goes up to the top here, and you can do this like what do you call it, like paragliding. You run off the top of this part and do paragliding, and then yeah, the mountain itself goes a lot higher. I've probably exaggerated a bit there, but it doesn't really matter. I don't think anyone's going to know. So again, just real loose brushwork right now. Let's see. Um, keep that relatively dark. I could even add some lighter tones in there as well. And just by mixing in some more yellow ochre, bit of titanium white, bit of alizarin crimson.
Hi, Sam. Yeah, I hear.
Hey.
But you're putting the greens in that pushes the back mountains further back already.
Yeah, it's the greens I'm putting in, I'm still keeping within the value range. So it's very similar to this blue. I just wanted the this blue in there first of all to make sure that the values are correct. And now I can just paint over it and even let some of that blue come through underneath. I mean, I'll be painting more of the trees and just, you know, the reflected light in them because this whole area is going to be in shadow anyway.
Yep. Starting to look nice.
Thank you. Um, again, I don't. We'll see how this painting turns out. I don't feel like I want to be really overly detailed with it, but we'll see. There will be some detail on it, but I don't want it overly detailed. I just want to. I find that when you use loose brushwork, that just gives the painting an aliveness, and you just got to be careful with too much detail because you can just end up, yeah, just upsetting the whole composition with just too much detail. So we'll see how we get on. Probably anyone that like lives in Queenstown is going to go, oh, that side of the hill's a bit too steep there, but it's okay. As I say, just feel free to ask any questions whilst I'm painting here. Actually, nice to do a big painting again. I haven't done one in like such a long time. So I'm quite
Sam,
excited for this one. Yeah.
what size canvas are you using at the moment?
This one is, I think it's 24 by 30 inches.
Okay, thank
I'll have to
you.
double check. I bought these canvases like literally about 3 years ago, and I still haven't had a chance to actually paint on them yet.
It might be out of date.
No,
Sorry.
they should be good. Nah, they should be fine. I've got I've got three kind of like big blank canvases. I've got another one this size, and then I've got a 20 inch by 20 inch as well. Maybe this is 20 by 24. I'm not. I'll have to check. I think it might be a 20 by 24,
That's okay.
which to me is big. I know there's some artists that will paint like, 2 meters by a meter or something, but I just don't have the room to paint that size, not here anyway. I
They
would like
look
to do.
daunting to me, the really big ones.
Yeah, I think when you start getting that size, I don't know. I mean, it depends what you're painting as well.
Yeah.
It's like
I've
how
painted
detailed
some
have you
pretty
go?
big paintings.
I say again?
I've painted some pretty big paintings.
Yeah, I have as well. And in the last like 3, 4 years, I've done a lot smaller paintings, and part of the reason was because I was making these monthly painting tutorial videos, and my video editing was and painting was not as fast as it is now. I mean, I've definitely gotten quicker, but I found it was like the only way I could do a painting tutorial each month is if I painted smaller. So then I just, for a long time, I was just painting on smaller canvases. I was going to say, so what I'm doing at the moment is I'm just trying to get a bit more texture into this hill here. So I'm just adding more blue and just doing these vertical downwards brush marks. So it's just communicating that there's a dense forest of trees there. I just want to get that texture in, and then I can work in a bit of detail once it's dry. But as I say, I'm probably not going to have this overly detailed.
Sorry, Sam, I shouldn't have interrupted with that.
Oh no, you're all good. No, I like the conversation going. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's about your art though. You're teaching us.
Oh, that's all good. Yeah, actually, it's quite nice painting and chatting to you guys at the same time, because most of the time it's just me painting and I'm listening to a podcast or YouTube or something like that, which is pretty cool. But
It's a very solitude act, isn't it?
yeah, it is actually. Just yeah, painting is. I guess unless you're plein air painting with other people, but yeah, a lot of the time it is pretty solitary. Can see a bit of a repeating pattern in there. It's just, oops. So once this is dry, I'll be able to emphasize these trees a little bit more. Right, I'll tell you what, let's just paint a little bit of the midground. I'll just show you how to mix a couple of greens for that. Because it's definitely one of those days where it was, it's spring, we'd had a lot of rain, everything's lush and green. And greens are one of those really tricky colours that if you get them wrong, they can look awful. But here's what I'm going to do. So let's start with get some oleo gel here. Hang on. Don't know what's going on there. Okay, so I'll start with some yellow ochre, bit of ultramarine blue, a little bit of cadmium yellow. That's going to increase the saturation. And I'll mix in a little bit of alizarin crimson just to harmonize the green. And then the next thing is to add some titanium white. That's desaturated it quite a bit. Let's just have a look. No, actually, it's not too bad though. So I think what I might do actually is mix in a real small amount of phthalo green. I think I've just mixed in too much. Never mind. Just calm it down with the yellow ochre. Yeah, so I don't. Phthalo green's the only pre-mixed green I'd use, and you mix it into an existing green that you've already made. That's really the best way to do it. So you make your greens look harmonious as well by mixing in something that contains red. Also, the titanium white's going to desaturate the color as well, and desaturate the green. So we'll just see what that looks like anyway. That's actually not too bad. It's not overly bright. So grass is a relatively light value color in the landscape, at least certainly when the sunlight's shining on it. So something to keep in mind there. And generally it's lighter in value than your trees. So as I say, that's something that you want to pay attention to when you're painting grass. Let's just recharge my green mixture here. So I'll just show you, I've just added some more titanium white. Yellow ochre, a little bit of cadmium yellow, ultramarine blue, and a tiny amount of phthalo green. Just oops. That's the thing with phthalo green, you only need a small amount and it's very easy to just use too much. Let's get a bit of alizarin crimson on there as well. Okay, let's see. Alrighty. Let's see. Yeah, that looks pretty good. I'll tell you what, man, I am actually half tempted to just carry on and just get the whole thing blocked in. That depends how bored are you all.
Go ahead. I'm not bored at all.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I might just see if I'll just smash the rest of it out. Because as I say, I'm going to be using like super loose brushwork at this stage of the painting, as it's in the blocking in stage, so there's not going to be any detail or anything like that. I really just want the main, tonal values and colors down. Let's see. Um, it's interesting that the colors look more saturated on the camera there on the live stream than it does actually in real life. And there's certainly this mountain to do as well on the side. There's actually some green on there as well, so I'll start marking in that also. I'm going to increase the saturation of this green in just a moment, but for now, I'm actually just starting off with it a bit more desaturated because I don't want to go overboard with it. And one of the things I can do next is start adding in some different hues for the vegetation. So, I can mix in some more yellow ochre, a bit more ultramarine blue, bit of cadmium yellow there. Some of that phthalo green can mix in. I just want to make sure it's not overly saturated because it's in the midground, but let's just see what we come up with. Use some of that existing color mixing in. In a way, I kind of still haven't overly determined which way I want my painting style to head into because I feel like I go through phases where I'm like, yeah, I'm really, really into detail. And then I have other times where I'm like, no, I just want to loosen up. It's like I can't make up my mind half the time. But I think for this painting, I'll let the painting itself decide how I paint it, if that makes sense. But yeah, I'm just going to get some different greens in there. And even though they're still relatively dark, quite a lot of these greens I've added, it means I've got plenty of room to add lighter tones as I work through the painting, especially after it's dry. So I've got plenty of options here. Just break up that line as well. Just loose painterly marks. Can come back to it. Okay. For some of the foliage there. The overall painting tonality. There we go. Communicate some conifer trees there. Yeah, I think that looks all right for the moment. And next I'll paint this willow tree. I think shall I use a different brush? You know what, I'm gonna see if I can use the existing, still use the same brush. So let's get some titanium white. There's a little bit more, it's quite yellowish because it's relatively new foliage and it's quite light in value. So I'll get a bit more cadmium yellow in there. And let's still get some ultramarine blue there as well. Bit of phthalo green. Yeah, you just got to be careful that you don't oversaturate your mix in the colors here. Let's just see what that looks like. No, that's not too bad. And actually, not only that, is it still relatively dark, so it means I've got room to add some light highlights to this later on once it's dry. But I think that's looking all right so far. The only thing is that I've found that with these types of trees at this time of year, or the time of year that I took the photos, the foliage is actually quite light and it's almost as light as the grass. So certainly I'm going to have to put some shadows in here so that I can emphasize this tree canopy a bit more, but I can do that in just a moment. Let's see. But I'm quite liking that color. Probably can put a few little darker tones in there too. Yeah, I think I will just get this blocked in today. Um, yeah, really, I'm really all about just getting the texture in and just painterly brush marks during the blocking in stage. What I'll do is when I've established all the colors, I'll go back across the whole thing and just restate the dark values. So let's go to the willow tree itself. There's quite a few different colors going on in there. Let me just show you. We've got the dark, so we've got some half tones in there, and then we've got these areas that are in the full sun that are quite light, and we've got some sort of yellowish green foliage as well. So I'm going to communicate that or add that into my painting. I think what I'll do is I'm just going to work off this existing mix here. Let's get a bit more oleo gel. I'll have to squeeze out some more pretty soon. I think I'm going to have to order some more oleo gel actually. It's a brand new tube, but I can see that I might end up using quite a lot of it quite quickly. But let's create some mid-tone greens here. So it's mainly centered around ultramarine blue, some cadmium yellow, and some yellow ochre. The yellow ochre is just going to help to earth that green a bit more. And I can mix in also some of this alizarin crimson. Not mixing the colors together thoroughly. Let's get a bit of phthalo green in there. Got to be a bit careful with the phthalo green. It's very punchy. But it's phthalo green, you can get some beautiful rich greens with that color. Just really nice to mix in there. Let's just see what this looks like anyway. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. So these are the like the half tones I'm painting in the tree canopy here. As I said, I don't want to go too light in this early stage anyway. I just want to have plenty of room that I can add lighter layers of paint later on in the painting. Let's feather some of this foliage a bit as well. Probably add a bit more cadmium yellow in that to see what that looks like. A bit of some green. Oops.
Sam, is the cadmium yellow you're using in those greens now, is that cadmium yellow light or medium?
It's medium. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
No worries. Yeah, as I say, just with my color palette, I just like to keep it simple for me. It just gets too overcomplicated otherwise when you start using lots of weird and wonderful colors, I find. Everyone's different. This is just what works for me. Might get a little bit more phthalo green in there. So I want to paint some highlights in a minute. Uh, let's try that. And yeah, what I'll do now is I'm gonna paint the highlights in the canopy. But again, it's still going to be tonally darker than it will be later on. So saving your lightest values until the end of the painting. You know what? I need to squeeze out some more oleo gel. Just give me a sec. I'll tell you what, I'm having fun painting this actually. It's been so long since I've done a large painting. I feel like it's looking quite nice already, even in this early stage. Mm. Oh, lovely. Man, I love freshly squeezed orange juice. So good, man. Gives you so much energy as well. Okay, that's back to my palette here. So I'm going to use some titanium white. I'm just working off this existing green. Just add a little bit of cadmium yellow, bit of yellow ochre. Oops. Let's see. Let's just see what that looks like. Yeah, that's quite a nice color there. Look at that. And still plenty dark enough that I've got room to move to add lighter layers of paint later on in the painting. You know what? I did. It's probably about 15 years ago when I first moved to New Zealand, and I did go to a couple of art classes there with an artist, and he said to me, he's like, your painting should look finished at every step of the way. I thought that was pretty interesting. There's certainly steps along the way with my paintings where they most definitely don't look finished at all. Okay, let's see. Let's carry on with this. Okay, so I'm just recharging this green mix here. So titanium white, yellow ochre, bit of cadmium yellow, just get a bit of ultramarine blue back in there. Some alizarin just to balance out that green. So the red in the alizarin crimson, just balancing out the green there. Get a bit of that phthalo in there. So the cadmium yellow is going to increase the saturation. So that's something to think about. I could probably do with a little bit more green in it, I think. Get some more oleo gel in there as well. I'm really liking this oleo gel. I'm definitely going to be using this much more often now. Also, I feel like I'm not breathing in like toxic liquid all the time as well. I'm actually really noticing the difference. I'm just going to increase the saturation of that a bit more as well. Whoops. Let's show you what I'm doing. Bit of phthalo, bit of alizarin. Okie dokie. Get the rest of this tree canopy marked in here. It's almost like a giant plein air painting in a way, the way I'm painting it right now. Maybe if John Crump was painting this scene, this is exactly how he would paint it. Except his canvas would probably be even bigger than this one. Okay, I'm just going to leave that tree for the moment, but I'm going to come back to it when I come to do the dark. So let's just work on the grass next. I think for the grass, I'm going to use let's see if I've got a number 10 here. I just want a big brush to use so I can just get some ground covered quickly. Here we go, I've got a number 10. I'm going to use a number 10. And grass being one of the lighter values in the landscape, I'll want it a bit lighter than this tree. I'm gonna come back and restate the darks in this whole scene, but I really just want to get this covered now. So I can work off this existing one. Let's get a load of this oleo gel on here. A load of titanium white. Some cadmium yellow. Get some of this yellow ochre. Some ultramarine blue. So this is just forming the basis of my green. Plenty of white in there. Get some more oleo gel in there too. Okay. Just get a bit of phthalo green in there too. And I'm going to use a bit of cadmium red in the grass as well. I find that it's quite good at harmonizing grass. So I only really use cadmium red for sort of elements that are in the foreground, but I found that it works quite well with grass. Just have a few kind of like, subtle red streaks in there for some cadmium red. Let's just see what this looks like anyway. Yeah, that looks quite nice. So I'm using this number 10 because I just really want to get this canvas covered as quickly as I can now. I was going to say thank you for staying with me for this long. I hope you're not too bored. this is the first time I've ever blocked in a painting of this size live. That's
I've enjoyed
recharged.
every minute of it, Sam.
Oh, that's brilliant.
And watching that emerge into it's unfolding into a very beautiful painting already. And
Oh, cheers. Thank you.
your values are just spot on. I learn a
Oh,
lot from
thanks.
you. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, it's all about the values. I really think. I mean, that's what's going to create the depth in your painting.
Sam,
Yeah, go for it. How are you?
do you find the oleo working better for you? Because
I actually, you know what? I actually do. I feel like because even with liquid, see, if I was painting this with liquid, it'd probably already be starting to dry a little bit, and I'd be like, oh, I'm racing against the clock a little bit.
yeah,
And I'm
because
finding with
yeah, I find this starting to look like a finished painting already.
Yeah, I'm really liking the results with this oleo gel. As I say, this it's actually the first time in years that I've used it, and I'm really liking it, man. So in fact I'm going to go and order some more probably later on because obviously it comes from the United States, so it takes a little while to get here in New Zealand. But yeah, I am really liking this. So
Yep.
I'm still going to use the liquid.
Yeah.
I'll use liquid if I'm got a painting I need to do quickly, or plain air painting, I'm still going to use the liquid. But then again, I don't know. Maybe I might try oleo gel plain air painting and see what happens.
Yeah, I might invest in a bit too and see how I go with that because I
Yeah,
will. It looks lovely, but what's going on?
yeah. I mean, one of the main things is, as far as I'm aware, it's not toxic at all. I mean, I'm not. It doesn't have any smell to it that I can smell anyway. Solvent-free gel medium says, oh, it's made of linseed oil.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So it also adds transparency to the oil. So I mean, this for this underpainting is it's fine to use this when you start adding more layers. You'd probably want to use less of it. And I've actually bought also some medium called Impasto mediums made by the same company. So that's where you can have thicker body paint for when you're adding those last brush marks. So I'll be trying that out later on as I add more detail to this painting. But
I've had oleo gel in my material box for so long and I haven't used it yet. So you're inspiring me to get it out.
oh yeah, I would definitely try it. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, okay.
I'm loving this. This is just it's so nice to paint with.
Just on the values, I don't know whether you remember who said this, but it's always stuck with me that credit gets all the color when values do all the work. And
That's I've never heard that, but that's probably very true.
I've got it written down, like I write down all these little nifty quotes from artists and I stick them on sticky notes all around the place.
That's you know what that makes so much sense. It's true. It's like the colors get the credit, but it's the values that do the work. It's
Yeah.
yeah, because without the tonal values, or without them being correct, yeah, your painting's just not going to have any depth to it, and that's the problem I see so many artists having. And it was the same with me because I had the same issues years ago. And it's because I didn't go to art school and I didn't learn any art theory. I just wanted to just get in there and paint. And I feel like if I'd have had this explained to me from the get-go, I probably would have saved myself years of failed paintings and things not working and frustration and all that.
Yeah,
So
I think the best way to practice that theory that values do all the work is to paint a red banana. If your
yeah,
values are correct, it will still look like a banana.
yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Mm.
That's very
And
true.
it's a good practice to paint an orange apple and a green orange.
Yeah. Well, you could paint a lime.
Yes.
You can, because that's green. I'm gonna have to get a lot more paint on here, I think. Just bear with me. I'm still mixing up more greens here. I'm like having to recharge my mixture. Yeah, your values are really are the key. I just want to make sure that my grass here isn't overly saturated. Yeah, so that's why I really emphasize the sketching, obviously because it helps with the composition as well, but it's the sketching as well is going to really start to help you understand the tonal values in the landscape that you're painting. And that's why I also think it's worth, when you're learning, to do that exercise I showed you where you do a value study. You don't need to do a value study every time you do a painting, but when you're learning, it's worth doing a couple. And then yeah, and then after that, it should really help you with your color mixing, especially doing that value study, because the ultramarine blue, burnt sienna, and titanium white, you use quite a lot. Or at least I certainly use it quite a lot in my paintings. So again, it's just real loose brushwork here. And I'm just painting in the general direction that the grass is growing. We're almost getting this canvas covered, which is cool. Let's just recharge my green mixture again. Yeah, definitely
Hello,
worth.
Suzanne.
Oh, say again?
Suzanne's here.
Oh, awesome. Hey, Suzanne, how's it going?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Sam. And hi, everyone.
Mhm.
I missed the sky part, and that's one part that I wanted to watch, but I didn't see your notice until late.
Oh, that's okay. Well, I'm recording this anyway, so you'll be able
Yeah.
to watch the replay, and I'll show you how I did the sky.
I was interested in the oleo gel. Do you find it spreads as well as liquid, or?
Yeah, it's spreading pretty well. Okay, one of the other things that I want in here, actually, I'm even gonna use, actually, I'll just use this brush. There's some kind of like reeds and stuff in there, so I'm going to use my existing green mix and let's add in some, let's get a bit of a alizarin. These kind of like straw colored like reed plants, I don't know what you call them. So I'm just using some of these earth colors, like my burnt sienna, bit of yellow ochre. I can use a bit of alizarin crimson, and then the blue's just going to help to desaturate it because it's kind of creating an orange here anyway. So we can just start adding these in. We'll mix in nicely with the green as well. So it's I can work off that when it's dry later on in the painting. Let's turn my camera back on again. I keep forgetting with my Canon camera, it'll record for half an hour and then it stops and then you got to turn it back on again. So I just want to create some texture in the foreground in this grass here. Again, real loose brushwork. Yeah, so that's what you want to do. Just loosen up your brushwork. It's almost like I'm just letting the brush do the work. That's why I said earlier, like I'll let the painting decide how detailed it wants to go. 'Cause I kind of feel like I don't want it overly detailed, but it's really all about the colors and values for me. That's why I'm really drawn to artists like Scott Christensen, for example, which I don't know if you've checked out his work at all, but his artworks are not detailed at all. They're pretty loose, but he's just nailed his colors and values, and his paintings are just so full of life and vitality. They just look beautiful. Let's just paint some of that. I mean, I'll be able to go with a lot more detail with this later on in the painting, and it's good to also get some red elements in the grass as well, just to help balance out the green. Which is why adding a little bit of cadmium red. Oh, I've got cadmium red light here, but in your green can help. I'm just noticing on the actual zoom footage, it's actually looking more green and a bit more saturated than it actually is. That's cool. So I'm just marking in the suggestion of just some of these kind of reeds and stuff that are in the distance along here. So this I can add to later on in the painting. I just want to loosely mark out where they are now. Just nice loose brushwork. Just love these flat brushes.
Are they ivory brushes?
Oh, these are Rosemary & Co brushes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're
Are they
from the
their
classic
small?
range.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I haven't actually used any of these big brushes in ages. Shows I just haven't done any big paintings for a while. It's so awesome to like start a big painting like this. There's just been so long since I've done a big artwork, and it's been long overdue. And I've got a load more of these. I've got a couple more of these canvases, and they've just been sat in my studio for the last 3 years, and I haven't done anything apart from think, I should design a painting that I can, yeah,
What
make a
what
nice large
size?
painting.
What size is it, Sam?
I think it's 20 by 24. I thought it was a 24 by 30, but I think it's a 20 by 24, which for me is pretty big. I don't have the room to go really, really big in this studio. So yeah, this I probably will do some bigger paintings at some point, but right now for me, this is a nice size here.
It's looking almost alla prima to me. I can't
Yeah.
imagine. I can't imagine you'd need to do much more to it. It's just beautiful.
Oh, cheers, thanks. Yeah, well, there's definitely loads more I'm going to do to it, but I am thinking, maybe I won't make it as detailed as I used to, my painting style's still evolving even now. So that's why I say I'm just gonna let I'm gonna let the painting decide on how it goes, if that makes sense. Might just add just a bit more texture to the grass. Might just add a few streaks of phthalo in there just to. As I say, it looks a lot more saturated on the video footage than it is in real life, so I can just assure you of that. Um, I think that's all right. What I'm going to do now with this is just restate the dark values overall. In fact, just prior to that, I'm just going to add a bit of just some suggestion of some detail just in this background mountain, not too much. Let's see what we've got here. Number 6. Let's use a number 6. I think probably I can work off this existing mix here. Man, I need some more oleo gel again. I've just used it all up. I'm glad I ordered this big tube. I can see that I'm gonna end up using quite a lot of it. I'm definitely gonna order some more later. I just like things in tubes in general. So
What
again,
ratio? What ratio of oleo gel to paint do you use?
generally I'm using about like a quarter oleo gel to 3/4 paint, and then which I'm which I think should be fine. And then as I work through the painting, I'll just use less and less oleo gel. I've also got some impasto medium as well from Rublev, which I'll use for detail later on in the painting.
Thank
But
you.
I just want to get some of these. There's some kind of subtle, I don't know what you call it, like reflected light or just something in that background mountain where you can just see some of the vegetation that's growing on it. So I've used this existing mix here and I've just mixed in some titanium white and some burnt sienna, sorry. Uh hang on a minute. The light's kind of reflecting off it a little bit, but I just want to see. Yeah, there you go. That's perfect. So I don't know if you can see that. You probably can't see it that well because the light's reflecting off it. Let me just see if I can just move the light down and you can see it. There we go. Is that better? That looks a bit better actually.
It's actually a little bit better when you lowered the light.
Yeah, maybe we should keep it like that.
Yeah, it's a little bit more evenly lit.
Yeah. So like, all I'm doing is I'm just, just marking up the suggestion of there's a bit of hills and ridges, ridges within the side of the mountain here. And it's not, it's not in the full sun, it's in shadow, but that's just what I'm doing there. So just really quick few brush marks. And when it's dry, I'll work a bit more detail into it. Not too much though. And I will probably even use a synthetic flat brush rather than this bristle flat brush. But for now, I just want to get some of those marks in and just build up that suggestion of just some texture within the mountains. There we go. There's even a sort of grey area that looks like that kind of mountain scree you get that comes off the side of the mountain. So I'll just make that a little bit more blue but lighter in value. Might even add just a dash of alizarin in there. Let's just see what that looks like. So yeah, it's just gonna add a bit of interest to it. I think that's probably all that needs at the moment. So again, it's just keeping within that tonal range. It's slightly lighter than this shadow area. It's really desaturated as well. But just with a few, if I just pop that light down a bit more, just with a few brush marks, and it makes it look more detailed. Probably I'll actually just want to go back over and just restate some of the darks again. So just bear with me. I think the cloud's all right for now. Again, once the painting's dry, I can come back to it. So I'm just remixing this color. Already. Oops, that's way too dark. Okay, we're going to make that lighter. Right, let's try that. Oh, that's much better. There we go. And fill in some of the gaps around these trees as well. Just want to make that a bit more blue. Oh yeah, that's better.
Hi, Sam.
Yeah.
Can I just have a look at your palette?
Yeah, sure.
The blue compared to the green, because I find it hard to, like when you desaturate for your mountains,
Yeah.
like the first thing I think when you see a green, it looks green, but then when you put it against your on the canvas against the blue, it brings out to look like a green, even though your palette,
Yeah.
it's not. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that color there, I mean, probably in the photo you might think it's a kind of a green, but
Yeah.
it's I use that and I just added more titanium white and a bit of burnt sienna to it, and it's made that color there.
Yeah, so it looks, when your eye looks at it, it's a greenish, but it's um that's the tricky part with the
Yeah.
mountains.
It's a cool it's a really good like illusion.
Yeah.
Just yeah, there we go. I mean, I'll certainly work on these more once it's dry. This bit still needs doing, so actually I'm going to paint some just darker shadow in part of this. I reckon I could do this all with just this brush. So, so I'm just making it darker, still ultramarine blue. Needs a bit of oleo gel as well, not too much. Ultramarine blue, burnt sienna, little titanium white, little alizarin crimson. Let's just see. Yeah, that's probably dark enough. How does it compare with that? That's lighter. And that probably needs to be a bit darker actually. Hang on. So this part of the side of the mountain here is really kind of like rocky. There's lots of rocks and stones and stuff. So I'm just getting some marks down there. I'll be able to add more detail to it later on. Just at this stage, I'm really not too worried about it. Let's put a few marks there. And then I'm going to use a new brush. Just bear with me a sec. What we got here? Number 6. So for the highlight there, get some more oleo gel, some titanium white, some burnt sienna, mix in with that ultramarine blue, bit of phthalo green. So you can get some like natural looking rock colors with this mix as well. It's just such a versatile color mix to use in your paintings. Let's just see how we get on there. Okay. Whoops. I mean, there'll be plenty of opportunity later on to add a bit of detail to this, but I don't want it overly detailed anyway. Okay. That in there. I'll come back with the dark values. Where's my other brush? Here it is. I'll just make a few marks here that I can work from when it's dry. Yeah, probably have to wait for that to dry and come back to that, but that's all good.
And with the oleo gel,
Yeah.
does it extend the drying time, or is it very similar to the Liquin original?
No, it doesn't speed up the drying time at all. So no, this will take a few days to dry.
Okay, I'm definitely going to start using that then, because I really don't
Yeah.
like the slow drying time. I don't like that fast drying.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely has its advantages using liquid and the fast drying time, but I'm certainly getting to a point now where I'm really want to cut down on using liquid. I'm still happy to use it outside plein air painting, but just in my studio, I think I want to start using oleo gel. Don't
I
really like
find
the
the
idea.
Liquin original smells funny.
Say again, sorry?
Liquin original smells awful for me.
Yeah, it's not pleasant. I sort of
No.
want to cut down on using solvents in general, so I'm not even really keen on the idea of using these odorless terps as either, because they're still toxic, even if you can't
Yeah.
smell it. So I'd
I
actually
don't
almost
use
rather.
any of that stuff.
Yeah,
I prefer not to use any of the terps based um,
yeah,
solvents. I've gotten away with
yeah.
not using it, and a lot of people think, "How do you do that?" But I use an underpainting medium, which is really good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, just for the
What?
underpaintings like base coat.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What's that product called? Oh, hang on a minute.
Oh,
Sorry,
oh goodness, I've gone outside. I'll
that's
I'll
my phone going
I'll
on.
put it on. I'll post it, or I'll message you.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I can't remember the brand. It's just an underpaint. Hang on. I might have it. I'll check it out. I'll be back in a minute.
Yeah. No worries.
I use a language underpainting medium that helps, like when you want to just wipe the thick oil out of your brush.
That's the one. Thank you, Suzanne.
Okay. Hang on. Yeah, so I'm just adding in these, just restating these dark values. Yeah, because I'm now want to wrap up the blocking in stage here, so we're almost done. Generally, just want to try and make everything as easy as possible. for when I come and start like modeling, which is the next stage when you start working on individual zones and adding more detail and things. But now I'm just restating these darks.
I just read the label on the underpainting medium and I didn't even realize it's actually a solvent. So I lied. I do use solvents. But it's great for the underpainting because it thins it down and it does speed up the drying a little bit.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, we're almost done here. Let's just add a bit of some of this darker mix just to this part of the foreground as well. Add a few shadows. Yeah, we're almost complete. And yeah, I just want to tidy up this green in there as well on the tree. So um, I'm still gonna use this ultramarine blue, bit of that as well, the yellow ochre. Might add a little bit of cadmium yellow. Let's just see what happens if I do that, and a bit of phthalo green. See what that looks like. Yeah, that looks all right.
Sam,
Yeah.
thank you for inviting us to
Oh, that's all right.
be here with you. It's been really informative. Really,
Oh, cool.
yeah, enjoyed it. Thank you.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed it. Yeah. Yeah, it's been real fun to start this painting. I've just been for so long wanting to get something done on these big canvases that I've had in my studio for a long, long time. But yeah, I think once I got halfway through the painting, I was just like, you know what, it'd be cool to just get the whole blocking in stage just finished right now, and then you can let it dry, and then start working on adding detail to it. I don't think I'm going to go too detailed with this painting, but we'll see how it goes. I just
You'll
want
have to
something
do
that,
a zoom. You'll have to do a zoom for the finishing.
yeah. Well, yeah, we'll see if
I'd love to watch that.
I'll try and give you a bit more warning next time, but yeah, perhaps sometime next week I can have another session on this and um, yeah, we can carry on with this painting.
That'd be great. Thanks, Sam.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, I'm just adding these last parts just to finish the blocking in stage here. I think we're almost pretty much done. Just bear with me a sec. Just want to add a bit more highlight to some of this tree foliage and just break up some of these marks. Needs a bit more yellow ochre in it, I think. Okay. Yeah, definitely getting there. Alrighty, almost done. We're almost done here. It's interesting that I've kind of subdued my greens a little bit than compared to my study. My study looks a bit more kind of, the greens are a bit more punchy, but I kind of like the way I've done this. I've got plenty of room to increase the saturation of these colors if I want to. But yeah, we'll see how we go when I come to start adding some detail to it. Actually, the one thing I do want to do is just get this shadow here. I'll get a bit of phthalo in that. Hang on. Yeah, thank you for subscribing to the art school. It's really appreciated it, and also just interacting in the free group as well. Because
Oh, it's an
yeah,
absolute pleasure being a part of your art school, Sam. It's the best move I've made for a long time. And yeah, I like encouraging other people to explore it and learn more and be part of the community. So it's really fun. It's yeah, it's not us, it's you, Sam.
oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, if like tell your friends about it and stuff. Um, that would be awesome. As I say, the art school helps to keep the paintbrushes in my hands. I'm just going to re-emphasize some of these branches as well, just in this, just for.
How is the paint school coming along now, Sam?
Oh, my art school.
Yeah.
It's definitely growing. Like if you're going to make a living from being an artist, you got to figure out how to get multiple sources of income. It's just the only way. Like if you're just going to solely rely on a gallery for you to sell your work, then it's a pretty risky position to be in because like I sell in one gallery in New Zealand and sometimes I'll like make a load of sales and then suddenly it'll be months go by and I don't make any. And actually, I've put my prices and my paintings up since then, so I don't really. I've got a few paintings for sale in the art gallery I sell through in New Zealand, but I don't even consider it as part of my um whole thing because by the time the owner is like taking the commission and stuff, it's just at this point really it's almost hardly worth my while because I'd probably need to be more in a sort of higher end gallery where I could charge more for my paintings, but it's just not really been priority for me. And I prefer selling my paintings directly online rather than being in galleries. Not to criticize galleries, but they're just really, in order of priority, it's probably one of the lowest for me is being in a gallery. So, the way I can make it work being a full-time artist was to teach it, but as it happens, I really enjoy teaching it anyway. And I learned loads from teaching it as well. And I've found that especially since I've made the live streams a much more regular thing as well. I'm actually finding wow, I'm actually learning loads here myself. So it helps me also. But yeah, definitely. Certainly if you guys want to sell your art in the future, which I think you should totally aim towards that. But there's loads of other, in my opinion, better ways of selling your art than just being in an art gallery. So, and if you guys are interested, it's something I can help you with as well in the future. I was thinking at some point I could do a live stream on how to grow on Instagram or, how to set up your artist website and things like that. Email list is another really good way to sell your art online. You can email your collectors directly, that kind of thing. Oops. Yeah. I think this is pretty much, I think I'll call it a day there. Yeah, there we go. Alrighty. I think we'll leave it there for the moment.